Welcome to Don't Step on the Bluebells, the podcast where personal healing and transformation take center stage. I'm your host, Amanda Parker, and I'm a fellow seeker on the journey of personal growth. Join me as I delve into the stories of gifted healers, guides, and everyday people who have experienced remarkable transformations. Listen in as they share their practical wisdom to enrich your everyday life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and never miss a new episode. Welcome to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. I am thrilled to bring you this conversation with Vladi Moseley, who is a hypnotherapist and past life regression therapist based in the Czech Republic. She also uses the quantum healing hypnosis technique, so QHHT, which helps clients access their higher wisdom, uncover their subconscious blocks, and also facilitate deep healing. Prior to doing this work, Vladi actually studied engineering and education and has over 2 decades of experience working both in the professional world and seeing clients in her practice. We have an incredible conversation about what is actually possible using this tool of hypnosis and past life therapy, what those terms mean, and what's really possible in your own life. So if you're looking for ways to shift the needle, this is going to be the episode you want to tune into. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I am so excited about today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. I am here with the incredible Vladi Moseley, who is going to be sharing so much wisdom and insight about the work that she's doing in the world, everything to do with helping people connect more deeply to who they really are at their core and taking them through really incredible processes. I don't want to share too much because we're going to dive really deep into this, but Vladi, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Amanda. It is so lovely to be here. Very honored. Thank you for inviting me. And I just can't wait to dive into, about what I'll do and how we can help people. There's so much to share. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really so excited. I know we had met originally about a year ago in a retreat, and I first learned about some of the work that you're doing in like regression and hypnosis, and I have been so fascinated by this world. And I'm just really honored that you've said yes to come join the podcast and share some of that wisdom with us. So really thank you. Just to kick us off and get an understanding, I'd love to hear just high level. What is it? How would you describe what it is that you're doing in the world?
Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it?
Maybe too big.
So I think really to make it into a 1 or 2 sentences, we're just I'm helping clients or people to access what they already know inside, and sometimes we don't have access to it in our daily lives because there's so many other things happening and distractions, and really the key point here is to access the higher self that is always with us, that knows everything, and there's so much wisdom there. And so we access that, and opportunities open up. We see clearly why we're here, what we need to do, how we need to heal, and understanding comes, and opportunities open. So that's the exciting part of the work, because people come and they just come with open eyes and opportunities and excitement, and seeing the magic that world is really, which I think a lot of us may have forgotten in the past, that there is magic around. And by magic, I really mean, that world is so much more than what we can see or what we've been told, that it is just, get up, go to work, come back home, stuff like that. Just so much more exciting stuff.
I think that's a really beautiful answer to a very big question. Who are you in the world and what do you do? And I really hear this thread of helping people return to themselves and that people are coming to you in this state, and really just in general that people are looking for different ways to connect within. And knowing that, this podcast is really about helping people to find ways that they can really heal and transform. What is it that healing means to you?
Yeah. Um, you know, I think I'm just going to connect to what I said previously. It is sometimes we get born and we go through life and we forget who we truly are, because we do remember it when we're little children, when we're really small. We know exactly who we are and how we want to, you know, be with our energy, who we truly are. And then the surroundings and the family and everything around us, maybe teachers, they kind of push in different directions, and because we're little we kind of, let it happen, and we forget who we truly were at the beginning. And so healing for me is really about remembering what that was like originally, before we let other people or circumstances mold us into something that we're really not. And so the negative programming that may have happened, or belief systems that we adopted that are not really ours, then they're not serving us, they don't serving our energy flow. Just dropping that's healing, because then we return to what our blueprint, our soul really is. And healing can happen on the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, you name it. And that's what hypnosis serves as a great tool for, that because we do reach those really deep levels of relaxation and insight, and we're able to access those parts of us that just know exactly what that is, where we're meant to be. And then we can take it from there, and the healing just happens, just falls, everything falls into place.
That's so beautiful. So there's this idea and belief that healing is really about letting go of some of those stories that have come throughout our life and helping bring us back to what we knew to be true for ourselves when we were little.
And I would say that against the belief sometimes that's out there now, that for healing we need to put something in, like a pill, or I don't know, whatever, from the outside. It actually is, to, like, anything that we've taken in that's not ours, that's not serving us, and just going back to who we originally were, and we may have just forgotten.
So beautiful. I am so excited to take this deeper. Before we dive into more of the hypnosis work and what you're actually creating, the transformation that you're bringing in the world, I'd love to hear a bit about, you know, who you are, like how you got here. Because I know that you didn't just wake up as a hypnotherapist one day. So I'd love to hear a bit of that journey that brought you to where you are today. And you can start anywhere that feels good to you.
Mm. Yeah, it wasn't that easy, actually. I remember as a little girl, I was in a quite a dark space for a long time, a lot of times, because I felt like what I felt inside world around should be the magical, and all that. It really wasn't on the outside. I was seeing something different that I kind of deeply knew that was supposed to be there. So, and that kind of really brought me down. I had to go with that and kind of explore what that meant. And a few times, I was kind of giving up on what's around me and then feeling really down about it. But then I was always searching, I was searching for a deeper meaning of life, because I was born back in Prague, in the Czech Republic, still deep in the communism. So around me was a world that was very, I would say, materialistic. The ideas were more Darwinistic. The idea about, that we get born, we have a body, we achieve what we achieve here, and then we die, and that's that. And I was like, I can't really accept that. So I was on a search for deeper meanings, and I think the hypnotherapy and past life ideas totally hit true for me when I picked up a book one day when I was about 18 years old, and it kind of, this idea about, soul and the spiritual world, etc. It all kind of started developing for me, and yeah, I'd seen a hypnotherapist when I was 20, and I was like, okay, I really like that. I'm going to work with this. And it just developed from there. I met my Reiki master, who is now a deep old friend, who's actually, his birthday is on my birthday, just like a many decades earlier. So that was a great meeting, and I met many people that do different healing work. So I tried many during the decades, working also with the body, the energy body, and it was just all so exciting. But it all boiled down to hypnotherapy for me, because I like to work with the spiritual side, with the this side that I think I can help the most when it comes to healing. But also, parallel to that, I kind of had my career as, I mean, I went to university and I completed my master's degree in environmental engineering. So you can see that there's already, a little split in that. You usually would think that a spiritual person would just run, one path, but actually there was a little two parallel lines for me. So I was really interested in the psychology and spiritual stuff on one hand, but then I was doing also the left brain work, where I did my engineering degree. And I decided that I probably don't want to stay in engineering, but because I was really into psychology and I needed to stay, being employed and working, that was what I wanted to do when I was about 25. I actually did a postgraduate degree in teaching in England. So I did that in Leeds, in the UK, and I embarked on a journey of being a teacher, and went through that as well. So I worked with thousands of students from 11 to 18, and I taught mathematics and science, and I ended up as administration in schools. So I was a vice principal and also a director of schools, a high school. So that is, I kind of, in a way, did both sides. The very mental classic world of 3D, and also developing the side of psychology and spirituality, and I really love it. Both sides are great. I wouldn't drop one for the other, to be honest, because it kind of enriches the other, if you will. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I think there is this sort of prevailing belief that if you're spiritual or you're working in the spiritual arts in some way, that you're disconnected from reality,
Mm.
or that you're not really planted, on the ground or on the earth in the way that most people are living their lives. So it's really fascinating that it was actually really parallel to the point where you were studying and going on this spiritual quest, really hand in hand. Do you see a lot of overlap between those worlds? Or what is that overlap for you?
Honestly, the older I get, there is more overlap because I'm allowing it. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that I am, yeah, allowing myself to be both. Because I think a few decades ago it was probably a less walked path to do spiritual work, but nowadays, it really is so much more open to so many more people, and it is acceptable. I have many parents actually in our school and students that are really interested in self-discovery, and parents that do not only yoga, but they might do different types of therapy. They're therapists themselves, or they work in different modalities, and it is always so exciting to actually touch on that if they bring it up. And I did coaching with my students that were struggling as well in my previous international schools. So all of that kind of just intermixes, and I think that just shows that we are beings that are meant to be here in the 3D, the daily, and we can be in a highly technical job and just going on about our lives, but yet be in touch and be aware that there are other layers that are spiritual, and so we can be. And I think that's the goal nowadays, that we are spiritual beings, but we also live the 3D life, and we are channeling our spiritual into the daily. And that awareness, in the Middle Ages, that was not possible. You were either a spiritual person sitting in a cave meditating, or you were somebody who was living the daily life and digging the potatoes. But there wasn't a merge. And I think nowadays it's about the merge. We're really bringing all our spiritual awareness and just bringing it into the daily life. And that's a challenge sometimes because, sitting in meditation without distractions is a lot easier than going, living a daily life and still, holding the other aspects.
I find it also really fascinating just picking up on another piece of your story. So you grew up in the Czech Republic. At the time you were young and growing up, it was a communist country. So what did that actually mean for you as you were developing, maybe as a spiritual person, or just as you were looking to the future of what you were going to be or become when you got older?
Hmm. I was actually very lucky in my life because I was to see different countries. So when I was born in Prague when it was still communist time, but by time I was 7, I actually get to go and live in Vienna for 4 years. So that was already, so I spent about seven years, and I definitely remember those times. And because I am quite quite an empath and I kind of sponge everything in, and it's not always the best thing to do. So but you soak in emotions around you, and I do remember that, when you were on the street, people weren't happy, they weren't smiling, they weren't in colors. So he wasn't too happy, but then the contrast of being in a different country obviously made it interesting for me to see the differences. And so I don't think I was that as much affected as some of my friends were because they lived in that space a bit longer. And I was, also very lucky that I then left when I was 20, 21. I left for the UK. I was doing my bachelor's degree in England, and then I returned back in the UK later for my postgrad. So I lived quite a long time there, and then I lived also in the Middle East. So, just getting to know the world, and I love that. I love traveling and getting to know new cultures, and it is so interesting also from the spiritual side how, you know all the cultures kind of are so spiritual, and they have different angles. So my clients, if they come from one or the other cultures, it is always so exciting to work with them and hear their point of view and dive deeper. So yeah.
It's really fascinating because it seems that you had the opportunity to explore a lot and were always observing what was happening around you. And because you had the chance to observe many different cultures or different places, so you've lived in
Hmm.
Prague and Vienna and London. I think you said London, right?
uh,
Not just UK
well,
or
Manchester, Leeds,
Manchester.
London,
Okay.
yeah, and Bahrain. I lived eight
Okay,
years
wow.
in Bahrain. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a blending that comes into that as
Mm.
well, just having an understanding that there's maybe more to the world already than what you grow up with and think is possible.
Yeah, I think you start realizing that you really, or I did, that we're more like global citizens and the home
Mm.
is Earth. We're on this planet. It's not my little country or my little view of something or whatever that be. So it contributed to that. And I feel like I'm a citizen of Earth rather than of a small space, a little country, definitely.
So, thinking about the work that you're doing now, if you were to describe it to your 5-year-old self,
Mhm.
so, what your life looks like today or what you're doing professionally, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I would say that what my 5-year-old self seen or imagined, hoped for, is really I was able to finally manifest that and see the world and be in the world what I was originally 5-year-old really thinking that that's what's going to happen. And it didn't happen right away. I really had to work on it, and really work on it means I just had to allow myself to be seen for what I am with all the quirks and, contradictions and whatever it is, judgments that I've maybe adopted on the way, and just let it go. So I would just say, just it happened, The world indeed is magical, and it's magic happens, as much as we can explain it, or maybe everybody who's listening might be understanding it in a different way. But when I say magic happens, it's really what I set myself to do or manifest. It just happens because the world reacts to your frequency, to how you think. And the more you let go of the baggage that's not yours, the more the magic starts being there in your life.
I love that message because you're talking to a 5-year-old saying magic is possible.
Hmm.
It's really
But
possible.
the 5-year-old knows that anyway, but there's just like you. The 5-year-old knew that. It's later, then it just becomes a bit
I
distorted.
was gonna say maybe I should be asking you about your cynical 13-year-old
Mm.
self or something.
Oh yeah, that would have been rough. Hmm.
So now I'd like to dive in a little bit to what it is that you do. So you've mentioned actually quite a few terms here, and I'm going to be referencing all of this after for people who are really inexperienced or maybe just don't really know a lot of this. So I did hear some terms around hypnosis, and what is it, would you say, that you are offering in the world today?
So the technique of hypnosis is something that people, I'm sure, know the term, but they not always. It is clear to people what is actually happening during hypnosis. And I would like to right away say that some people may have seen on TV those hypnosis sessions that happen on the stage, where somebody gets hypnotized and pushed to do things that they don't like or want. And that's really not what we're talking about here, because during a hypnosis session, the idea is that the client accesses their higher self, their higher mind, and, realizes throughout the session, hears the messages from the higher self and realizes why they're here, why they're living this life, what's the reason, what's their mission in life. Sometimes they figure out their issues in partnerships. They might come with a problem that they're dealing with, and their higher self will give them answers to that. And there could be really anything, any question that the client wants answering. During hypnosis, they get in touch with their higher self, which knows everything about their lives and answers these questions. And they also get an insight about either their other lives, or it could be anything else that the higher self will show them for deeper understanding. Now, during the session, the client is awake, even though their brain waves are a lot lower, which means that they are kind of in that state where they're almost asleep, but they're not. So if you imagine just when you're lying in bed and you are almost asleep, you are in this awesome relaxed state where just your mind can wander and imagination starts happening, but you're still here, you're still awake. If somebody started talking to you, you would still hear them, and you could still just about answer. So you're in charge of what's happening. This is not somebody imposing anything on you. So, and in this state, um, I'm able to guide the client into, going through these deep states of relaxation and actually contacting the higher mind, the higher self, and get the answers, as well as seeing some alternative lives. We can call it past lives if we want, and really getting information from there. So this is just in a nutshell, what the session would look like, or what to expect, and how the healing is happening. The client get seeks like will receive a deep understanding of what their life is about, what steps or life choices are not the right thing because they're not aligned, and so they can make other decisions to remedy that when they leave the session, and that's when the healing happens.
So that's really fascinating. You're helping clients get into what I would use the word like altered state
Hmm.
of consciousness. So, and you're talking about this state like right before bed, like almost a hypnotic
Hmm.
or theta brainwave state. I'll put all these terms in later. And helping them to just connect to their higher self. What exactly is higher self? How would you describe that?
Yeah, so in psychology might be working with different terms altogether, but for the purpose of being simplistic here, the higher self is the part of us that is the all-knowing. It's kind of that part that stays with our soul when we die, when we obviously, when we move through and incarnate to a different body. And maybe some of you might still be thinking whether that is possible. Some people might still be uh, kind of pondering on that, and that's definitely, I get clients that come to my session to even see if that's true. Is there other past lives? Is there other lives? Is there incarnation, or is it all that we die and there's nothing past that? I had a client recently who was 75, and he just reached a point in his life where, he was a CEO of a company, really kind of left brain, meaning, thinking, planning, not very much, the other side, spiritual and meditation. That was not his forte. But he started thinking, I'm getting a little older here, and I really want to see if there's more out there, may make him feel better about the next stage of his life. And so he really came with that in mind, to see if there's something else out there. And he really achieved it. He saw his two past lives, and the one point where he thought, okay, I got what I needed from this session, was when his whole self was returning from the past life back to integrating to the body of who he is right now. He said that he literally felt like he got sucked back into this body. And the physical feeling, and not every client might feel it that way, but for him, it was really significant. And he was just so excited about that, because he was like, okay, I really felt that my my soul was not the same as my physical body. So for him, finally, the materialistic idea of the body dies, nothing else is there. It was like, okay, there's different modalities, and definitely the one just continues. And I thought that was just so awesome. So for each client, they take away something else. Depends what they need when they're coming in.
So, to unpack this experience a little bit, because that's a really beautiful story of what can take
Mm.
place, what is the difference, let's say, between hypnosis and past life regression?
Hmm.
Is there a difference?
Good question. So I actually, there is no difference. Now, there are some modalities that would just be called past life regression therapy, and hypnosis goes. And specifically, I work with quantum healing hypnosis technique right now, which was developed by Dolores Cannon. So our viewers can also, find her books and read loads of stories there, and she has transcripts of sessions. So that's really interesting. So I recommend that. So this particular technique just speeds up the process of bringing client into the hypnotic state. But past life regression technique also brings the client into the same state, not always as deep, so it depends on the technique. So it depends on, what the therapist is using for technique, how far and how deep they get. And also, the perk of the quantum healing hypnosis technique that I'm doing is that you are accessing the higher self and you are having conversation with the higher self, you also looking at your past lives with a perspective. So there are techniques how to get the client to actually be in the altered state and look at the past life that he or she just lived. If it was a past life, it may not be past life, whatever situation they saw. And really, from the soul level, make decisions of what that was about, how that's helping now, because we always want to take it to the life now. That's the most important. That's why we're living here. We want to always reference it back to that. So to go back to your question, what the difference is between past life regression and hypnosis, there could be a difference between how deep we go in the hypnosis, but they could be very similar. They could even be almost the same. So one of them is mentioning past lives. If I'm talking quantum healing hypnosis technique, we don't always just visit past lives. There are some clients that don't need to, their higher self says, well, you don't need to see past lives anymore. There's no need for you to see that. And instead, we're showing you something else, which could be far more out there and crazy, you know? It could be so crazy. So anything can happen during quantum healing hypnosis sessions. It just depends what the higher self, you know, feels fit for you to see for the purpose that you came to this session. So that's why I think it's more of a broader term. You know, anything can happen in our session. We're not just aiming at past lives.
So it sounds like there's hypnosis is sort of this overarching technique, and there's many different ways to work within that space of hypnosis. And then there's also different maybe schools of thought. So some people might focus specifically on past lives. So that is, of course, the assumption that we have past lives and reincarnate. And I'm with you on this. So some viewers may, believe in that. Some might not be ready for that or have a different belief system there. But it's this possibility that we've lived many different past lives, and you can just access what those are, whatever is, let's say, the most important for where you are in your present life today. Or they could experience something like this quantum healing that you're describing that you really work with, where you have the opportunity to visit, many different, potentially even parallel lives, different scenarios that help you, always with the intention of helping you to heal or understand or face things that are happening in your present life today.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that a fair?
absolutely. And from the psychology point of view, if we just say hypnosis, there are many various clinical hypnotherapy, for instance, which really focuses on changing the experience for the clients, and it could be focusing on making the client feel better, but not focusing on past life. It's just focusing on the present life. There could be hypnosis techniques which make you stop smoking, or other things. I don't focus on that. We really have the sole purpose of healing, and the higher self brings the healing part and whatever the client needs to see. And sometimes sometimes there are snippets from this life if it's important. So absolutely, anything is possible.
That's incredible. So why would you say someone would come seek you out for a session? What are some of the reasons that someone might come in and say, okay, Vladi, I need your help now?
I think a lot of clients that come are seeking to clarify what their purpose is in life. That comes up a lot. So that's a classic one. But it could also be that the client is in, midlife crisis, and they need to find another way to be and exist in this life. It may not just be the purpose that they're seeking, but it's more like, what do I do with myself now? Maybe a long-term marriage has ceased, and they're really feeling lost for whatever reason at any point in life. So feeling lost it could be one big topic. It could be physical ailments. It could be just a general feeling that they don't belong in this type of world, this society that just really struggle with what the world is offering them, just the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, get home, cook dinners, sleep, repeat. And it's just they just don't feel the motivation to live this. So looking for something different. The options are endless. Why clients come to me? Sometimes it's the elderly clients, like I mentioned, one of them that really want to now embark on the you know just exploring spirituality because they never did in their lives. And I get very young clients, like the ones that are so awake already, and they're in their early 20s, and they just want to fly, and they just need that little nudge. And when they jump in the sessions, and these young guys, I don't know, maybe you've heard about the crystal children, and the really new generation that's just so ahead, and they just get it. They're just like, oh yeah, life is magic. I just need this little nudge here, because I've been stuck in one or two places. And they just get in the session, and it's like, whoa, we're just on a roller coaster, and it's awesome. And so I had a few that just came out of the session as like, okay, that just blown my mind, and I'm off now. We're good. So and they became one of the girls became a hypnotherapist within a year. And there's so many awesome stories, changes that happened after a session. I mean, the session is designed to be a one-off. The client spends 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours with me. We really have a deep chat, around hour and a half, 2 hours, for me to really understand what the clients is coming with, what who's in their lives. And so when we get to the hypnotherapy part, and anything comes up, be it anybody from the current life, or anything else, I already know what questions to ask, and how to guide the client. But the answers, the wisdom, it's all coming from the client, from the higher self. I don't tell anything to the client. I'm just there as a guide to keep them on the track, to keep listening to the answers, and ask the questions that are basically their questions that they shared with me. So the client is answering their own questions. That's the magic about it. It's like they come to get healed, but by themselves, not by me. I'm not really the healer here. I'm just holding the space, and it's almost like I'm the catalyst for it to happen. And hopefully, I would say that in the future, we all will be able to do this by ourselves. We don't need to go anywhere to even have somebody hold space for us, because it would just be possible for us to scan, see where the block is, let it go, and moving on. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, very much so. And just picking up a bit on this, so when someone comes to you for a session to get a feeling of what that layout is like, you said that there's about 5 to 6 hours. You might spend 1 or 2 hours just speaking, talking about what's going on in their life and where they might be feeling blocked or challenged. What happens next?
Yeah, the chat is awesome. It's just we're just having a really deep chat, and I just get to know them, and it's beautiful, because that's so important. Sometimes for many clients, it is almost like they don't have anybody in life to even do that with. So it is an initial super important part. And then we embark on the hypnotherapy session. And just, I probably wouldn't go into detail here what happened, because if somebody listens to this conversation and then comes to the session, they it might actually be nicer for them to just flow with it. But just to point out a few things here, the client just goes into the theta, which means that the brain waves are slowly lowering, and so the client is getting calmer and calmer. So when we are in the normal daily state, it's the brain emits beta waves, that we are awake, we're talking. And the alpha state is known to most people now. It's kind of this like daydreaming state, where we just yeah, daydream, for instance. But the theta is even lower, and it's just like we are about to fall asleep, like I described. And that's the state where we're accessing the higher knowledge, the higher self, and we can even see other information that our souls holds. And part of it is all the other lives that our souls have information about that we may have lived. And like I said, it's not always the past, but for the simplistic talk here, we're gonna, you know, consider it past lives. So during the session, the client might be taken and shown whatever is relevant for them at that point, whatever they came for. So it could be a past life that is going to highlight, an important pattern which there as a soul are dealing with, and they need to see it so that they can get it into their conscious mind now in this life so that they don't repeat what they were repeating. There might be some souls that are repeating life after life the same lesson and they still haven't learned it. So when they come to the session and they see the pattern, and they might see 3 lives that they're repeating the same things over and over, they will really see that they need to do things differently in this life. And that could be one option why that got illuminated, and they really understood. That's the healing part in it. I had a client, another option, how healing can happen is one of my clients saw herself in about maybe 16th century, something like that, where she was held in an underground place. She just saw herself on a board, in a cellar, basically held captive and really badly tortured. And she died there. And so we unpacked this whole experience. But part of the experience is also that I work with the client on the healing. So she was able to, put her body back together while she was in the past life, which was super healing for her, because we don't just want to see a past life and then say bye to the client. That is not helpful. That is just opening, that would not be helpful to the client. So actually within the session, there's always healing happening, and we closing off everything that we see so that the client's not going home with the head like a balloon and having to deal with it then. That is not never happening. So why I'm mentioning it, that this client was able to really heal herself back then, the trauma that she experienced, that she actually still remembers, and she has some body ailments now, and issues, mental issues from that were stemming from this experience. So she was able to heal that there and then when it happened. And then as she left that past life, we have closed it all off. We are looking at what lessons have been learned, and also looking at how it all is connected to the life now and what healing is happening, so that we can learn from that, or she can learn from that. So that's another option, what clients could see and heal. But not everybody sees traumatic lives. It's only if this higher self feels that it is important and it's part of the healing, that the higher self will show something traumatic.
It's really fascinating. I'm just really curious about this topic. And so I've done my own reading and, have read some work by Brian Weiss, who works
Mm-hmm.
specifically in past life regression. And there's a lot that I've seen about things that we have in this life, which is, I think, parallel to what you're talking about. Like maybe you have a knee that's hurt, or you have a birthmark in a specific place, or certain ailments or pains in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's actually possible through this hypnosis technique or through regression to find out where that came from and heal it in that past life so that it no longer impacts you today.
Absolutely. And absolutely happens a lot. It could be also phobias, people not knowing why they have a fear of water, for instance, and there's nothing happened to them this life that would indicate, you know, drowning, or anything like that would have happened to them when they were little. There's still this fear, so it could possibly be that it happened in another time. Fear of animals, fear of knives, I hear it all the time, like because people know that do hypnosis. They're just go, they would go like, I can't even look at a knife. What happened? So, well.
So, listening to the stories that you're telling, what comes up is a question about what healing is possible. So, people obviously come in because maybe they want to know their purpose. They might not be expecting to, uncover trauma from a past life or just a challenging experience. So, what's actually possible as a result of doing this kind of session with you?
Like anything is possible. It's really that crazy. um I would never put an expectation on it before clients comes in, because you know there is no limit, really. They might be coming with an ailment that gets resolved, so that's one. There are some tangible ones, but you know it's it could be a wildest fantasy that we can't even make up. It really is so individual for the clients what happens, but the options are endless. I have clients that come to find their purpose, and they just leave, and they just know they have seen themselves one life after the other doing certain work that absolutely fulfilled them. And then it's like, okay, what are you doing now? Why aren't you continuing? Because this is who you are, and this is what really made you happy and fulfilled you, but you forgot, or there was something happen in your life that derailed you, and or whatever else it is there. And it's just, there is always this deep knowing and insight that there is something unfolded where I just see clearer. So anything is possible.
So, have there been instances that, someone had a physical ailment or an injury and they were able to heal that? I mean, is something like that possible?
It is, yes. And it really is all about whether the client comes to the session ready to heal, like that they really decided that they want to heal. And during the session, there are many ways how we can approach while we're talking with the higher self. Obviously, we'll be asking questions about it, and also asking the higher self of the person to heal itself. And some really interesting things happen during the session when the healing is happening, because sometimes client report, and I can even hear it, that like the bones are cracking. Like sometimes their back is hurting, and during the session it's just like all the spine is just cracking, and they're just sorting it all out. And then I would get a message from a client 2-3 days later, and they go like, I just feel like somebody beat me with a stick, but I was just lying there peacefully. I don't know what happened. Nothing happened since then, but clearly some alignment happened in the body, and then they report that their back pain is gone, or whatever else they needed to heal is gone. So the body is able to do a body scan and really see where the alignment is not yet there, and they're able to do that during the session. So sometimes they see that there are shadows around organs, or more energy there than it needs to be, all sorts of things. And then they're also able to heal that while they're under in hypnosis. So awesome stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it also has a lot to do with the kind of mindset of the client coming in and their willingness to just be
Mhm.
open to what shows up in the session.
That is definitely true. And also the willingness to carry that depends on how strong the negative programming is that the client might get back to. So I'm always encouraging the clients to listen to the recording after. That is something that I always do. I record the session, and I encourage the client to listen to the recording, because that helps anchor the new healing in the body and in the mind. So sometimes it could be that when the client goes home, that sort of old thinking patterns might take place, and they start questioning whether what happened was actually real. And of course it was real. But if we question something too much, it could revert back to the original. So that's, I would say that that is the tricky part, to just solidify the new reality in the body, so we can keep the healing.
Honestly, I have so many questions. I am really loving just your openness with sharing exactly how this works and what your experience is, and also keeping some of the mystique so that people have the opportunity just to come in without a strong expectation of exactly what the session looks like.
I wanted to mention one thing earlier already, that I do get clients as well that are not so sure that some past life exists or not. And I always tell them that that is absolutely fine, because the idea about hypnotherapy is healing. It's not about your belief or anybody's. It's irrelevant whether you believe in past lives or not, because the higher self is there and it's going to show you exactly what you need to see. And you don't need to think of it as a past life. You can think of it as a story that is relevant for me right now. And it's the story is holding power and information for me to deal with it. So just like in psychology, we work with mythical pictures, and we can derive understanding from those, just because we just saw that. That idea, you don't have to give it names like past life or something else. It's just take it for what it is. Just let it go through, let it be what it is. And then after you step out of the session, you can think about it and see what that gives you. And you will receive healing whether you were thinking of it as a past life or not. It doesn't matter. And I'm not really stuck whether it needs to be named this or that. It doesn't really matter. It is relevant to you, and that's what matters. It's healing for you for this moment. So I wanted to say, we don't want to put away or put off anyone that might feel that unless I'm convinced about past lives, there's no point going to regression or hypnotherapy. Yeah,
Anything is possible in the space, so
exactly.
be open to what comes up, and your mind will, like your mind, your higher self will help you integrate that in a way that makes sense for you right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to learn a bit more either about the quantum healing hypnotherapy technique, or quantum
Hypnosis
healing
technique. Yeah,
hypnosis
that's right.
technique, so QHHT, or they want to learn more about maybe regression, do you have resources, either books or podcasts, something that you would recommend that people can look into to get more information?
I think one of the great sources of information for this particular technique would be to read some of Dolores Cannon's books. She is the one who created this technique, and she wrote 23 or 25 books. And the books are always transcripts from her sessions. So I think clients can really get the feeling of what a session is like by listening to some of her books. And there's some mind-blowing sessions there. Or of course, come for a session and then, you you get your own insight. But that would be one of the sources that is a good one. In my earlier years, when I was doing past life regression and working with different techniques of the same thing, I was working with Michael Newton's technique. So Dr. Michael Newton wrote a book, Journey of the Souls, and some other books as well. So that's a good resource as well. Again, there are transcripts in his books from his sessions. His approach is a little different. You can find a lot from there as well. So I think those two would be what to focus on. Yeah.
That's perfect. I'm going to look all of it up too and take my own reading and knowledge deeper. So, what is it that you're excited about next? Is there anything coming up for you, or that you're working on or launching that you're really excited about and want to share?
So honestly, right now it's all about this, influx of amazing clients that, in the past year or two, it really took off. Like I've been doing hypnotherapy in one form or the other for decades now for clients. And yet I would say that recently it just it's phenomenal. Like there's uh,
Mm.
there is so many people that are interested in this type of work and just really connecting the spirituality with the daily. And I'm pretty busy right now, not just with clients, but I'm also working on other projects. So right now it is just the excitement. Every client is so different. And, I'm just loving seeing how their lives change after they had a session, and they just connect deeply with themselves. And I think right at this point, this is what the world needs. It's just like an avalanche of people just waking up. And this is one of the modalities that really helps people to wake up super fast.
So, if someone is interested in having a session with you or getting in touch with you, how can they best do that?
So they can visit my website, which is, you might probably do a little type up there because it's harder to understand how it is spelled, but it is www.ariandra.eu. And I also have an Instagram account, which is Vladi Moseley. And so they can see some of the posts there about QHHT and some clients' little session snippets. So that's a fun one to visit. And otherwise, they can also reach me on my email, which you can share with them.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll share all of these in the show notes and also in the pod sheet that is associated with this episode. So, anyone who is going to be in the Czech Republic and wants to have an in person session with Vladi, you'll be able to do that for a QHHT session. And then you also offer some techniques that you can do online as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I actually do travel. A part of the year, I'm in different countries too. So it changes every year. So last year I was in Spain for 3 months. So I saw clients there too. So they usually can see the differences in my website, or if they shoot me an email, I'll tell them which country I am at the moment. And because the hypnotherapy, or hypnosis sessions are only in person. So it is important to see the client in person. I really insist on that. I know that there are some sessions, hypnosis sessions happening online, but that's not what I do. However, I do meet clients online if they need work on their negative programming. There's a really amazing method to really target negative programming from childhood, from any place in the current life. So specifically, if a client is not ready really to go for hypnosis for whatever reason, they can work on their negative programming and really tidy that up, and start, getting magical lives just by removing the negative programs from this life. So we can do that online. And that's a fun one to do too. Sometimes it's fun. It's a lot of work for the client, but it's the results are amazing as well. So, I think the mainly those two are what clients come for these days.
That's really amazing. It has been unbelievable to sit here in conversation with you. And really, you've been so generous with your wisdom. For so many people, this information is really hard to come by and they just don't know where to begin this search. So, you're really helping to bring that out, that people have an understanding of what's actually possible and where they might be able to start getting that help when they want it and when they're ready for it. So I am so, so thankful to have you on the Don't Step on the Bluebells podcast. Thank you for agreeing to come on and spending this time with me.
I'm so grateful, Amanda. It is my pleasure. Super happy that you thought of me, because I know we met a year ago and you said that you thought about doing podcasts, and I'm so grateful that you thought of me to bring me here. And I'm really hoping that we're going to reach some of your listeners that might think that that's something that they need, and it might be a solution for them. They can absolutely reach out, just even if they have a question. It's absolutely fine, and I can answer whatever they need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future episode. To dive deeper into today's conversation, make sure to visit www.don'tsteponthebluebells.com and grab your exclusive pod sheet. It's packed with valuable takeaways that will enrich your listening experience. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.